In the winter of 1953, a man jumped from the 10th floor of a Manhattan hotel. His name was Frank Olson, a biochemist who worked for the United States government. 9 days earlier, his colleagues had slipped a drug into his drink without his knowledge. The drug was LSD. The program was called MKUltra. What if your own government could rewrite your thoughts? MKUltra was a covert CIA program that ran from 1953 to 1973. Its goal was simple but terrifying: to master mind control. The agency wanted to manipulate memory, erase identity, and force confessions. They tested drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and psychological experiments on thousands of people. Most had no idea they were test subjects. This wasn't science fiction. It was official policy, and we only know about it because one set of documents survived a mass shredding in 1973. The story matters now because it reveals how far a democracy can drift when secrecy replaces accountability. The program began in April 1953 under CIA Director Allen Dulles. The Korean War had just ended. American prisoners came home telling stories of brainwashing by Chinese and Soviet forces. The CIA panicked. They feared an enemy mind gap, so they launched their own research into behavioral control. The man in charge was Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist with a clubfoot and a backyard garden full of poisonous plants. He reported directly to Dulles. His budget was hidden inside other programs. No oversight, no ethics board, just results. Gottlieb's first move was LSD. The drug was new, strange, and powerful. The CIA bought the entire world supply from Sandoz laboratories in Switzerland. They gave it to agents, soldiers, prisoners, hospital patients, and sex workers. Sometimes the subjects knew. Often they didn't. One test site was a brothel in San Francisco. CIA operatives watched through two-way mirrors as clients were dosed without consent. The agents called it Operation Midnight Climax. Another site was a federal prison in Lexington, Kentucky, where drug addicts were given LSD for 77 straight days in exchange for heroin. But LSD was just the start. Subproject 68, run through McGill University in Montreal, focused on psychic driving. A psychiatrist named Dr. Ewan Cameron used electroshock therapy, drug-induced comas, and tape loops played for weeks on end. Patients entered his clinic with mild anxiety. They left unable to recognize their own children. Cameron's methods were brutal. He called it Depatterning. The idea was to erase a person's mind completely, then rebuild it. The CIA funded him through a front organization called the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology. His patients were not prisoners or spies. They were ordinary Canadians seeking help. What we know comes from a slim paper trail. In 1973, as Watergate investigations closed in, CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MKUltra files destroyed. But one cache survived by accident. Financial records stored separately at the agency's budget office. A Freedom of Information Act request in 1977 by investigative journalist John Marks uncovered them. The documents revealed at least 149 subprojects. These included experiments in universities, hospitals, and prisons across the United States and Canada. At least 80 institutions were involved, though many had no idea the funding came from the CIA. Frank Olson's death became the program's most haunting symbol. On November 19, 1953, Olson attended a staff retreat at a cabin in rural Maryland. Sidney Gottlieb was there. After dinner, Gottlieb spiked the Cointreau with LSD. No one told Olson until 20 minutes after he'd drunk it. Olson spiraled. He became paranoid, confused, unable to sleep. His colleagues took him to New York to see a CIA-cleared psychiatrist. On November 28, around 2:30 in the morning, Olson crashed through the closed window of room 1018A at the Statler Hotel. He fell 10 stories to the sidewalk below. The CIA called it suicide. They told Olson's widow it was a mental breakdown. They never mentioned the LSD. For 22 years, the family believed he simply collapsed under work stress. Then in 1975, the Rockefeller Commission investigated CIA abuses. A footnote mentioned an Army scientist who died after being given LSD in a mind control experiment. The Olson family recognized the details. President Gerald Ford invited them to the White House and apologized. Congress awarded them $750,000 in compensation. But questions remained. In 1994, Olson's son Eric had his father's body exhumed. A forensic pathologist found a skull fracture consistent with a blow to the head before the fall. Eric Olson spent the rest of his life arguing his father was murdered. The case was never reopened. Other victims had no closure at all. Velma Orlikow was a Canadian woman treated by Dr. Cameron in 1956 for postpartum depression. She entered his clinic walking and talking. She left incontinent, amnesiac, and unable to care for her children.